We're going to talk about 3 games in particular. And then we're going to talk about really what the title of the show is. Top 3 rushers in the NFL. We're going to go through them. We're going to talk about their impact on their new teams because they all got new teams. And we're going to go for theirs. The first game, we have Green Bay put a whooping tie on the 49ers, 38-10. Josh Jacobs continues to shine. This game, he had 26 carries, 106 yards rushing, and 3 touchdowns on the ground to add to it. So you talk about Josh Jacobs, was on the Raiders last year, came into Green Bay. Don't kind of compare him yet. We'll wait till we get to all 3 of them. How do you feel about Josh Jacobs on a new team, a new regime, a new scheme? How's he fit so well in the Packers offense, Ty?
Oh, he's such a good player, Connor. He really is. He's the thing with and it's really the thing with a lot of these guys too is there was really nobody in Las Vegas when he was there and when they were Oakland. There's nobody with the Raiders, other than him. And that's kind of the thing is now he's surrounded himself around a good quarterback when Jordan Love plays, but Malik Willis has played well too. And there's a lot of talent on that team, especially I think they're really good at wide receiver and really deep there. So there's a lot of talent on that team. It's a proven good offense with Matt LaFleur as a head coach, and he calls the shots on the offense. They still give him the ball, right? It's not like he doesn't do as much as he did with Oakland and Las Vegas and whatnot. Hey, sometimes I get confused. I feel like they should still be in Oakland, but anyway, it's not like he's not putting up the same numbers as he did. It's just the thing is he's got help around him, and teams don't have to focus just on him. He's got help around him. I think he's been excellent this year. It's fun to see him so good. He was so good at Alabama in college. Alabama had a plethora of running backs under Nick Saban. And they'd always go to the league and do pretty well. I know Eddie Lacy did well. He was another guy, and he was with the Packers when in the prime of his NFL career. So, but no, Jacobs has been good mainly because it hasn't had to be all him, and he's kind of had the weight of the team kind of off his shoulders.
Now, you talk about kind of Josh Jacobs was still productive on the Raiders. We can say that. In 2022, he led the league in rushing with just over 1,600 yards, 1,653 yards. So you get that. Josh Jacobs signed a 4-year, $48 million deal with the Packers, so he's going to be there for a minute. And you talk about another Alabama running back. Alabama's, I think we could call them RBU. I can't really think of a team that has produced as not even like running backs, but really solid running backs like Alabama has in the past decade. I mean, you talked about Eddie Lacy, Ty. That dude was 2015, 2014, we were talking about Eddie Lacy.
Mark Ingram was, like 2009, 2010, 2011 for Alabama. So, and then he went in the league and did great things.
I mean, like we said, talk about Alabama running back, excuse me. Let's talk about another one. Let's talk about Derrick Henry. Now, we have another Harbaugh bout going on. Now, it's the third time John and Jim Harbaugh have met each other. Jim has lost in the regular season to John, like in 2011. Then they met in the Super Bowl, lost the Super Bowl again to John. And so now you have the third bout, and it's Jim's time to shine. He's got a new team. We were thinking the Chargers were going to have an off year. He's never been under 500 with the team, so we were expecting something maybe around 500. And he was leading for the first part of the game, and then Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry just went off. It was just, they are probably the best quarterback running back duo in the entire league. You have Derrick Henry, 24 carries, 140 yards. Didn't get in the end zone. That's fine. You were still productive with 140 yards rushing. And this is a new team. You signed a 1-year, $16 million fully guaranteed contract to stay with the Baltimore Ravens. You're shining. Lamar Jackson's playing the best football as a quarterback. He's throwing, he has the best quarterback numbers he's ever had because he actually has a running back that can take the rushing game off of his shoulders. What does Derrick Henry add to Baltimore, Ty, and why has this contract been such an A-plus move for the Baltimore Ravens?
You say it's an A-plus move. I totally agree with you. This is probably the biggest signing of all the free agent signings last year. The amount that he's and I've said this before, the longevity in his career, especially as a running back that's a hard-nosed kind of guy and I'll run you over kind of guy. NFL running backs just don't last as long anymore. But Derrick Henry is kind of the outlier in that. He's been great this year. And in the past, the Ravens just hadn't, they hadn't had much of a run game, and you can't really, fault anybody. They just haven't been healthy. And speaking of being healthy, I mean, J.K. Dobbins was with the Ravens last year, just couldn't stay healthy, though. He kept with his knee. He messed up his knee really bad, and he had an Achilles injury, and he just couldn't stay healthy. But now he's with the Chargers, and he's been good as well. We're kind of talking about the Chargers a little bit. He's been good. It's good to see him have production. But back to Henry and the Ravens. It's been fun to watch. He's so powerful. I'd love to think that I could tackle him if you gave me 100 tries, but I probably couldn't. He's so good, Connor. So no, I mean it's big for him, and it's in what it has done too. And you mentioned Lamar. It's kind of he doesn't have all the run game on his shoulders, so you've seen him pass so well this year. He's seeing guys so much better because the run game is so out of his hands. I mean, he doesn't have to. All you got to do is just hand the ball off, and you got at least 3-4 yards of carry. He's played well. I look forward to seeing him complete or continue to play well during the season. They're going to be a juggernaut. I think they should. I think that offense is really good. The only thing that could limit them is the pass defense, and it's one of the worst. I think maybe the worst in the league. I thought they did well against the Chargers, kind of containing it a little bit, but we'll see. That's like I said, that's the only thing that could really limit them. But that offense is good, and Lamar's passing the ball well, but he's just as big of a threat as running the ball. And Derrick Henry could be the best running back in the league this year, if not for a guy we're about to talk about in a second.
I love the move. The one thing that I had criticized about that move, and I wasn't saying it was a bad move, it was just the fact that Derrick Henry is hitting that age in running backs where you start to digress. And obviously we haven't seen that in Derrick Henry, not even this year. I mean, he's on pace to hit 2K again that we've seen him hit before. He's on pace for that.
It's incredible.
So
it's incredible.
It's fine. And it was like, maybe he's on the wrong side of 30, but you have all this. I mean, I hate to bring this up, but you bring up like LeBron James, dude. He sleeps in hyperbaric chambers to keep his body, youthful. And so now you have all this new technology. You can play a little bit longer because you're able to keep your body 10 years younger. And so now you're saying, okay, well, they're on the wrong side of 30, but how will that affect him going into this year? And it hasn't. He has looked great. I mean, he might look as good, if not better, than his offensive player of the year campaign. And maybe
he's been good.
Have we seen an MVP and offensive player of the year on the same team besides the same player? How crazy would it be if Lamar won it and Derrick Henry won it?
That would be crazy. But it could happen. I mean, seriously, Lamar is probably definitely the front runner for the MVP. And what Henry's on pace to do? Yeah, certainly. So the Ravens obviously saw some things that a lot of fans didn't, and they saw that this guy's taking care of his body, and he's got a couple more years left in the tank, and especially he's got this year left in the tank where he can take us to maybe the Super Bowl.
Now, do they extend Derrick Henry is the question. Do they let him go after this year, or they keep him in Baltimore?
I don't know why you would let him go, because then you just burden yourself. Then you just burden yourself to find another running back. You've already got a good one. I'd run him until he proves he can't do it anymore. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you don't want to burden yourself for no reason. If you've got a proven guy right there, there's no reason. It's the same thing when Saints fans talk about Kamara. I want him to obviously retire a Saint, but the thing is a lot of people are like, well, you probably need to find a new running back pretty soon, or maybe ship him off. He still produces. Why would you burden yourself with getting rid of a really good running back at his age, and then and losing that production? So no, I think they should. I think they will, and I think they should extend him.
Now, you mentioned somebody that we're about to talk about, so let's talk about him. You got a guy that has actually been my favorite to watch. I mean, dude hurdled somebody backwards, and they've added it in the video game too. Dude hurdled somebody backwards, Ty. Saquon Barkley, after the Eagles beat the Rams 37-20, he had a historic night for Philadelphia. He went 26 carries, 255 yards rushing, which is the highest rushing night for this season, and 2 touchdowns. Now, for scrimmage, that's 30 touches because he had a couple catches, 302 yards, and still 2 touchdowns on the ground. Now, Saquon, for this game, he set 2 Eagles single-game franchise records. One for the most rushing yards in the game with 255, and then another one for the most scrimmage yards in the game with 302. And you talk about, the Eagles have had, I'm pretty sure they've had Shady McCoy before, and they've also had DeMarco Murray as well. So you've had people. I don't know if either one of those have now I know one of them has been Offensive Player of the Year before. I don't know if it was with the Eagles or not. But, like I said, you have somebody that is really, really good. Now you have Saquon here, and he's broken records. And I want to pull something else up, too, that was also interesting that Adam Schefter posted on Instagram that I do want to read out. Now, he has 500 yards of scrimmage in the last 2 games, which is the 3rd player ever in history. Now, he joins Walter Payton and Ollie Matson, who are 2 NFL Hall of Famers. So, and Saquon will probably join him as a Hall of Famer, if we're being honest. He's a pretty good running back. Now, that's not the only thing. He's a 6th player in NFL history to record multiple rushing touchdowns of 70-plus yards in a game. I'm not going to read those players out. He's just a 6th one. And then his scrimmage yards for the season is the 2nd by any player in the first 11 games with a team. The number 1 guy is Eric Dickerson, who has the rushing yard trophy for a single season. And we're going to talk about Saquon potentially breaking that this year. Talk to me about Saquon on the Eagles. Maybe if he breaks the record this year, Ty. Let me know what this move has done for Philadelphia.
Well, it's allowed, I think, a big thing for Philly. It's allowed them just to slap the New York Giants right in the face, their division rival. I think that's funny for Philadelphia fans. He was going nowhere in New York, and it's the same thing we talked about with Josh Jacobs when he was with the Raiders. That there just wasn't enough talent there, and there wasn't enough talent there in New York with the Giants. Not great quarterback play. Even now the quarterback play is still in question. Daniel Jones has been cut. So, but for Philly, it has been huge. You mentioned 302 yards from scrimmage last game, and he had, I think you said 30 touches. Connor, that's a first down every time he touches the ball. If I'm doing that right, I think I'm doing that math right. I hope so. But that is just absolutely insane. He has been huge. You talk about previous Eagles running backs. He's probably the best running back. I mean, they've had some good ones over the past few years, like you mentioned, Shady McCoy. They had Jay Ajayi. He was good. He is the best running back they've had in a long, long time. He could definitely break the record this year. They obviously still want to give him the ball. He's at 223 carries this year. I think that's at least I think they played 11 games, so I think that's like 20-something carries a game. So they're going to feed him the ball, obviously. It's not like, though, the same thing with what we mentioned with Josh Jacobs. He's not the only one on that team. Jalen Hurts is still a threat to run and obviously pass because that's his job. And they also have got, a really good receiving core. So it's not just him, and that's what makes this Eagles team scary. They are definitely, I would say, probably the second best team in the NFC behind the Lions. But those are two teams that are really good, and I think those are two teams you could see play for the NFC title game. But Saquon, just a freak athlete in it, and what he does in the offseason to get himself in shape to play the way he does. It's just he's one of the best athletes I think I've seen in a long time. He's so powerful, and he does things the right way. Can't speak enough to Saquon. I hope he breaks the record. I really do, because he's a great guy. So, but yeah, big pickup for the Eagles, and it'll definitely help them in their quest to try and get back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, like we said, it's been a minute since somebody set that record. Eric Dickerson did it all those years ago. Now, I kind of want to compare them briefly for just the next couple minutes. I want to compare them before we get to our next segment. I'm going to give you your stats on the year. That's rushing and scrimmage. If I'm going to paint a scenario, if we have these three guys as finalists, say we could have finalists for the Offensive Player of the Year award, obviously these guys are going to be in contention for the award. I'm going to give you some stats based on what you think is going to happen for the rest of the year. I want you to kind of tell me who you think has the best chance of winning this award. But here we go. This is your 2024 rushing leaders. Now, Saquon has 1,392 yards of rushing, 223 carries, and 10 touchdowns. Derrick Henry's got 1,325, 221 carries, and 13 touchdowns. Josh Jacobs with 944 yards rushing, 202 carries, and 7 touchdowns. Now, for the scrimmage, Saquon's got 1,649 with 12 touchdowns, which leads the league. Now, Derrick Henry has 1,421 with 15 touchdowns, which is second place to Saquon in terms of yardage. Then Josh Jacobs is 1,130 and 8 touchdowns with his fifth place for yards of scrimmage. Now, obviously, when you're an Offensive Player of the Year, you don't just look at rushing, you look at all scrimmage stats. And when you are able to control the ball on the rushing plane and the passing plane, like we saw Christian McCaffrey do last year very well. He got himself an Offensive Player of the Year award, and now these guys are on track to do the exact same thing. So if these guys, hypothetically, were the only three that we could see, who has the best chance of winning it?
Yeah, you put a tough one on me, Connor. I think when you think about it, I think honestly, if it's just those three guys, I think what's important is you see how much of an impact they've made to the team. I think Josh Jacobs has made an impact, but I really think the Henry and Saquon have made a bigger impact. I think golly, that is tough. I would say, honestly, I'd probably say Saquon. I think he can. I think he can keep this up. I think he can have a couple. I think he have at least another game like this. He's always prone to breaking out big games like this. I just think he's been so big for that Eagles offense. Yeah, I'm going to say Saquon. I want to hear what you say too, but I'm going to say Saquon because I could go. I'm on either side of the fence about this. I could go with Derrick Henry too.
This is my opinion on it. Now, The NFL loves stories. They love painting pictures before they go into the award. I mean, when you watch the NFL draft, it takes 30 minutes before they announce the first pick because they're showing the entire college career of this number one overall pick, who it could be, and they love the story of it. So you have last year, the 2023 comeback player of the year, you have Joe Flacco. Came off the couch, was on the freaking practice squad, ended up taking the Browns to the playoffs. Didn't do so well the first round, but that was the story the NFL loved. They made him comeback player of the year, and he deserved it. He deservingly so. He deserved that award.
Yeah.
It's going to be the same thing this year. Derrick Henry's a great story, but there's no better story than Saquon Barkley this year. I mean, he has the stats to back it up, but when you go to a division rival team with as much beef as New York and Philadelphia have historically, you have Tiki Barber saying Saquon's dead to him now because he's going to a rival team. It's that heated. Someone like Tiki Barber, a Giants legend, played running back there, tweeted out like, Saquon, you are dead to me because you going to a new team. So I think because of the story, because of the stats to back it up, he could beat the record. If he beats the record, he will 100% win it because it hasn't happened in 40 years. So Saquon, the offensive player of the year for 2024 has to be Saquon Barkley.